In this rural village, a loudspeaker advises the residents to stay indoors to avoid getting shot by armed forces who are practicing for national defense. But this is a disguise by a group of assassins whose target is to kill a young girl named Jian. One of the assassins aims his sniper at her, but it narrowly misses her and hits a family portrait on the wall, causing it to shatter. As the man scoffs for missing his target, Jian, on the other hand, is having a mental breakdown. When she looks around the room, she sees an unconscious bleeding woman and a gun on the floor. So she pulls herself together and tries to go for the gun, but another bullet pushes it away, making her shake in fear. But at this critical moment, she realizes how serious the situation is, so she tries to stabilize herself by remembering the words of her uncle. It was one night while watching a thriller movie with her uncle. She had thought it was ridiculous that the main character in the movie could evade so many bullets, but her uncle taught her that finding blind spots in the middle of a gunfire can prevent anyone from getting shot. Once she remembers this, she begins to look around for a blind spot. She gets an idea to attach a broken mirror to a mop stick with tape. Then she waves her little invention outside where the sniper can see it. When the man sees her little efforts, he laughs at it and continues to fire at the mop stick. Unknown to him, this will help her to realize that he's shooting from a diagonal direction. Once she realizes this, she immediately climbs on a fridge with the intention to jump to the other side of the room. But the sniper suspects her intention, so he orders his driver to move forward. Then he notices some movements in the upper part of the room and aims his bullet. The moment she jumps out, he fires at her, but the bullet misses her by an inch. As soon as she gets to the other side of the room, she immediately reaches for the gun under the couch, but is unable to reach it, so she pulls up the couch, but suddenly finds a sniper gun which belonged to her uncle. As the sniper loads his gun and prepares to shoot at her again, he suddenly realizes that she's also aiming a sniper at him, and before he could evade it, she shoots at him. Prior to this entire saga, Jian was living a normal life with her uncle after the death of her parents. One day while arranging her new college room, she had questioned her uncle for installing security bar windows on the 5th floor since no thief in their right senses would ever climb the 5th floor to steal something. She had also criticized his choice of closet since it didn't suit her style, but he revealed to her that the closet was bulletproof, so it could be helpful whenever there's a gunfire. However, she couldn't understand why there would be a gunfire around her house area. As she continued unpacking some belongings, her uncle picked up her school ID card and began to take pictures of it. She thought it was weird, so she snatched it away from him. But instead of getting angry, he persuaded her to memorize her ID number since it could be useful one day. She had tried to push aside the matter, but he even grabbed her face to force her to memorize the numbers. Unknown to her, this will be the last time she speaks to her uncle. She had suddenly received news of his death, so she went to the morgue to check on his dead body. While inspecting the body, she asks the officer why there's a cut on his throat instead of his wrists since he had died by suicide. So the officer responds that the autopsy report had concluded that he died of suicide. As they push the body back into the cabinet, she notices a tattoo with the word "Mirth Help" on her dead uncle's leg. While making preparations for his burial, it occurs to her that her uncle never had a tattoo like that. The burial attendant advises her to get her uncle's portrait for the burial, so she pays a visit to her uncle's house. While sitting outside, her childhood friend Jian sees her and goes to meet her. He helps her to edit a photo of her uncle, and also reveals that he majors in computer engineering and had once helped her uncle to create an agricultural hose sales website. The boy also offers to clean up the bathroom where her uncle's dead body was found. During the burial wakekeeping, her uncle's classmates come to pay their respect. One of the classmates tells her the name of all the people who brought burial flowers, but there's a strange name on a flower, so he's unable to name it. Some strange twins also come to the burial, and when he tries to talk to them, they ignore him. So he goes to sit with Jian and tells her that he has never seen the twins around the neighborhood. Meanwhile, as Jian cleans the bathroom, he sees a suspicious blood stain on a cupboard, so he opens it and finds an old-fashioned phone. Back in the burial wakekeeping, the old classmates discuss the death of her uncle. One of them reveals that her uncle used to be the leader of Mafia gang, a deadly gang, but another classmate debunks this and reveals that her uncle was an anti-North spy for the NIS. As everyone leaves after the burial, Jian pulls out her cigarettes to smoke. As she searches for her lighter, a hand suddenly reaches out with a lighter. It's a strange, hefty man. As soon as he leaves, Jian comes over and they get together inside a bus to drive to the cemetery. Surprisingly, the hefty man is their bus driver. Once she gets to her uncle's house, she changes into a tracksuit and looks around the house that reminds her of the uncle. This makes her break down in tears, but at this moment Jian comes in and sees her crying, so he stays over to comfort her. Then he shows her the old-fashioned phone that he had found in the bathroom while cleaning up. She doesn't think it belongs to her uncle since she had never seen him with it. So Jian tells her that her uncle must have used it for work. As she inspects the phone, she receives a credit alert of 70 million. The message also shows her uncle's bank account balance of 18 billion won, which leaves her in shock. She doesn't believe that her uncle can earn that much from selling hoses, so she tells Jong Min to show her the hoses website he had created for her uncle's business. While browsing through the website, Jong Min inputs some programs, and they realize that the website was used as a front for another business, and the word on the homepage was similar to the tattoo that she saw on her dead uncle's leg. As they log into the hidden website, they find out that the website is used to sell guns and other illegal weapons. A chat message suddenly pops up, and the sender is asking when their gun shipment will arrive. Jian is confused, so she replies to the message and offers a refund of the money if they send their account number. However, the sender asks if her uncle was really dead, and they promise to kill her as well. Suddenly, the doorbell rings, but Jian is suspicious, so she responds via intercom. The woman outside introduces herself as Min Hai and claims to be her uncle's private Chinese tutor, but unknown to Jian, the woman has a gun in her bag. As Jian contemplates on whether to open the door, she receives a text message warning her not to let anyone else kill her until they'd personally come to kill her. Suddenly, the woman knocks on the front door and tells Jian that she would wait outside for a while. Meanwhile, multiple drones fly over to her uncle's house. This experience takes her back memory lane to over 15 years ago. During the funeral of her grandmother, her uncle had insisted that the grandmother's death was suspicious, but Jian's father dismissed this. And since Jian was causing trouble at the burial hall, her mother told the uncle to take her back home. After they leave, a strange man approaches Jian's parents and claims to be looking for the uncle. Meanwhile, Jian is at home with her uncle watching a movie. He suddenly receives a phone call on his old-fashioned phone. The call seems urgent, so he tells Jian to stay alone in the house while he goes out. He instructs her to give a riddle to anyone who knocks at the door, and she's only allowed to open the door to anyone who answers the riddle. A few minutes after he leaves, she hears a knock on the door and goes to check it. There's a strange man at the door, so she tells him a riddle, but the man doesn't answer. He successfully unlocks the door, but the moment he steps in, someone drags him out, and they engage in a fight. After the fight, a new strange man opens the door and shows Jian his phone, which contains an answer to her riddle. He claims to be her uncle's friend and tells her to hide in a room while he deals with another assassin. As he closes the door to her room, she takes notice of the gold ring in his hands. Once the door closes, another assassin walks into the house. Jian hears sounds of fight and opens the door out of curiosity, but she sees a man beating her uncle's friend, so she gets scared and decides to hide. When the assassins enter her room, they search everywhere for her. One of the assassins notices the opened windows, and when he opens it, he sees her dangling outside the window. He tries to convince her into taking his hands, but she lets go of the rod and falls on a couch. While running away, she gets hit by a bus and is rushed to the hospital. When she regains consciousness, she overhears some police officers talking about the death of her parents and how they were killed by some strange men. Later that night, she wakes up from a nightmare and becomes suspicious of her surroundings. An assassin walks into her hospital room to kill her, but she manages to escape, so begins to chase after her. She comes across a morgue room and gets in. Since the assassin is nearby, she decides to hide inside one of the morgue cabinets, but she soon realizes that the dead body inside the cabinet belongs to her mother. The assassin begins to open all the cabinets to find her, but her uncle comes in time to rescue her. After killing off the assassin, he opens the cabinet and carries her out of the hospital. Then he drives her off to a faraway and isolated place to live together. But she develops PTSD, and according to a psychologist, she would be unable to speak for a while. At school, she often gets bullied, but Jong Min would step in to save her. One day, the bullies locked her in a basement, making her spend hours alone. Suddenly, she sees an imaginative hyena carrying a dismembered hand with a gold ring. She gets scared and begins to bang at the door, and after a while, she begins to talk and call out for her uncle. He arrives and breaks the padlock to save her. After this incident, their relationship blossomed. Now back in the present, she questions the woman outside the door and tells her to return on another day. So the woman gets in her car and leaves. After making sure that the woman is gone, Jian and Jong Min resume their study on the website. Jong Min discovers that members who use the sites are divided into four. Code red are assassins, code purple are spies, code yellow are people who clean up dead bodies, and code green is the highest level. People under the green code will be protected by members of the other codes. And according to the website, Jian and her uncle are the only members of Code Green. As Jian tries to digest this information, an explosion shakes the room, so they go out to find the source, but to their shock, the fence has been broken down. A drone begins to fire at them, but fortunately, the window is bulletproof. They try to escape through the back door, but see another drone is waiting outside. Now they're stuck inside the house. Their luck soon runs out when the drone fires an explosive that breaks the bulletproof windows, making them fall. The drones begin to shoot directly at them, so Jian immediately runs into a room, while Zhongmin struggles to catch up. He crawls into a room and hides inside a bulletproof wardrobe, but the drone follows him inside the room and shoots at the wardrobe. It also throws an explosive to break open the wardrobe. Once the wardrobe break opens, it tries to shoot Zhongmin, but Jian comes in time and uses a slingshot to fire stone at the drone. As soon as it falls, she hits it with a chair. After destroying the drone, they pick up the bulletproof wardrobe to use as a shield while Jian fires slingshots at the other drones. But this plan fails to work when the drone fires an explosive at the wardrobe. The impact of the explosive blows them away, so they are left without a shield. Now, the drone prepares to fire them directly. Meanwhile, the mysterious woman named Minhee drives her car to a stop when she notices that Jian and the boy are in danger. She opens up the boot of her car and pulls out a sophisticated weapon. As the drone is about to fire the two kids, the woman pulls the trigger, so the drones suddenly collapse on the floor. Zhang Min is shaken with fear and tries to run away, but the woman suddenly knocks him to the floor and points a bullet at him. She scans his hands to verify his identity, but it gives her an error, so she begins to question him. He tries to explain his relationship with Jian, but the woman immediately injects him with a sleeping drug. Jian comes out aiming a slingshot at the woman, so the woman retaliates by pointing a gun at her. Jian begins to question if the woman is behind all the attack, but as the woman is about to respond, Jian fires the slingshot that narrowly hits the woman. They immediately get into a fight, but the woman succeeds in pressing down Jian. She also scans Jian's hand to verify her identity. The result shows green, which means Jian is a part of the organization. So the woman advises Jian to act rational in order to survive. After pulling away from each other, Jian prepares for another fight, but a bullet suddenly hits the wall, so the woman kicks Jian away to prevent her from getting shot. Once they are well hidden, the woman reveals that her intention is to protect Jian from the assassins. But Jian has a hard time believing this, so the woman finally reveals that Jian has a green code implanted in her forearm, and each time she shouts her uncle's name, other code members will mobilize to save her. As the woman reveals more information, multiple armed men surround the house and prepare to kill Jian. The leader sends a message to a sniper, so the sniper fires a bullet once he catches sight of Jian, but she manages to evade the bullet. Seeing this, the woman pulls out a tear gas that creates smoke in order to obstruct the view of the sniper. But instead, this makes the sniper aware that someone is helping Jian, so he immediately notifies his teammates. They send another drone to the house, but the woman hides in the smoke and shoots down the drone. Unknown to her, it's a bait to pull her out. Once the sniper recognizes her, he pulls his trigger and shoots her in the hand, making her gun fall off. The leader also notices the woman and becomes worried. He calls the sniper and warns him to be careful, since the battle now includes the woman. Meanwhile, the woman tears a part of her clothes to treat her wound, and at the same time, Zhang Bin regains consciousness from the drugs. The leader and his team begin their hunt to catch and kill Jian. Meanwhile, Jian tries to reach for the fallen gun, but the sniper knocks it away with a bullet, so she gets the idea to tie a mirror to a mop stick in order to find the direction of the sniper's bullet. Once she realizes that he shoots diagonally, she decides to climb on a fridge and jump to the other side. But the sniper sees through her plans and orders his driver to drive forward a bit. As soon as she makes the jump, he shoots in her direction, but she manages to evade it and jump to the other side. She immediately reaches for the gun, but it's far away under a couch, so she pulls up the couch to get it. To her surprise, she finds a sniper gun attached to the couch. Under the guidance of the woman, Jian is able to assemble and load the sniper. She aims the sniper and shoots, but misses her target. The impact from shooting the sniper makes her fall, so the woman pulls her up and holds the sniper. As they deliberate on the next step to take, an assassin tries to sneak in through the window, but the woman immediately shoots him. This makes the other assassins cautious, so they decide to use another door. Seeing the situation, the woman instructs Jian and Zhang Min to escape into a storage shed, while she stays to fight off the assassins. Initially, Jian is distrustful of the woman, but as soon as the gunfire becomes intense, she decides to escape with Zhang Min while using the bulletproof wardrobe as a shield. The sniper notices their movement and quickly notifies other assassins. As the two kids try to escape to the storage shed, the sniper shoots the shield, making them fall. Zhang Min is shaken from the shot, so Jian stands up in order to pull him up, but the sniper sees her head shooting out of the shield and aims his gun at her. As he's about to shoot, the woman also points her sniper at him and pulls the trigger, but he evades it, so it hits his driver. Meanwhile, Jian and Zhang Min successfully get into the storage shed, but the assassins follow them and begin to shoot. The woman arrives in time and signals Jian to unlock a secret passage while she goes to fight off the assassins. Jian and Zhongmin run to the passage and try to unlock it by inputting different codes. But it shows error, so she begins to panic since she didn't know the passcode. Suddenly, she remembers the day that her uncle had forced her to memorize her ID number. Once she gets this clue, she quickly inputs the code, and it successfully unlocks an elevator that takes them underground. As soon as they get to the ground floor, they discover underground weapon storage. But when they try to explore it, a masked man suddenly aims a gun at them and introduces himself as brother. Meanwhile, the assassins surround the storage shed to attack the woman, but she manages to escape through a manhole, leaving the assassins to fire into thin air. Then she sneaks around in the dark to take them down one by one. After killing all the assassins, she gets into one-on-one combat with the leader. He knocks her down and tries to stab her with a dagger, but he suddenly begins to bleed from the impact of all her stabs during their combat. On the other hand, the masked man introduces himself as brother and commands them to chain themselves together with a handcuff. While putting on the cuff, Jian suddenly hits Zhongmin to cause a distraction. Then she uses the opportunity to fight and strangle the masked man. Once he becomes unconscious, she removes his mask. In the storage shed, Jian discovers CCTV camera that spies on all her activities, so she goes to question the strange masked man, but he begins to panic and tells her to immediately provide more medicine and bullets for Minhee, since he suspects that more assassins will come for them. As she questions him, Zhongmin turns on the light switch to the storage, but the man strangely reacts to the light and tells Jian that he suffers xeroderma pigmentosum, an illness that allows lights to hurt him. Once she sees his weakness, she forcefully requests an answer from him, so he starts to reveal some details, but Zhongmin suddenly stops the man and puts clothes in his mouth to prevent him from talking. He advises Jian not to believe the man's word and claims he'll get more information once he properly studies her uncle's website. After he leaves to look at the underground server system, the strange man suddenly stands up and tells Jian to be careful of Zhongmin. But Zhongmin hears this, so the man begins to run and Jian chases after him. Zhongmin also picks up a gun and searches for the man. Once Jian gets to a section of the underground, the man tries to sneak from behind to inject her with a drug, but she skillfully evades the injection, so the man rolls on the floor, but quickly crawls in between the sheds to escape. She follows him closely, but falls into the hole, and the entrance to the hole immediately closes. She's now alone in the hole, so she shouts for help, but Zhongmin doesn't hear her. Meanwhile, Zhongmin is holding a gun and searching for Jian, so the strange man turns off the lights to the underground in order to sneak up on Zhongmin. In the dark, the man successfully captures Zhongmin and traps him with some machines. Meanwhile, Jian can monitor everything due to the CCTV computers she found in the hole. As she contemplates on how to save Zhongmin, the man shoves some clothes into Zhongmin's mouth to prevent him from talking. Then he picks up a tablet to communicate with Jian. He instructs her to open a drawer, so she obeys and finds a handover documents. According to the documents, Jian is mandated to take over the Murder Help organization after the death of her uncle. She will have to oversee the management, accounting, and personal aspects of the organization. The man continues to read out all the clauses in the document and finally agrees to obey all her orders once she decides to take over the organization. She immediately signs the document that consents to her takeover, so he sneers and releases her from the hole. Once she's out, he reveals that her uncle had planned everything, but she notices a gun in his pocket and immediately takes it to point at him. Then she commands him to release Zhongmin, but he refuses, so she reminds him of his promise to obey all her commands. However, he insists on not releasing the boy and reveals that the boy was responsible for her uncle's death. Under her commands, he eventually releases the boy. Zhongmin tries to beat up the man after his release, but Jian points a gun at him and tells him to stop. He's shocked by her actions and asks if she believes the words of the strange man. The man pins him down and accuses him of erasing evidence after killing her uncle, but Zhongmin insists on being innocent. So the man reveals that her uncle would never commit suicide unless someone had killed him. As Zhongmin tries to counter this, Jian yells at him to keep quiet and instructs the strange man to keep talking. So the man directs her to open a file on his computer. As she's about to open it, Zhongmin yells at her to stop as it could be a trap to open the underground room. But the strange man continues to insist that she watch the file video since it could reveal everything. At this moment, Zhongmin suddenly reveals that he was the one who directed her uncle to rescue her when she was locked in an underground basement while in middle school. Once she hears this, she hesitates and eventually decides not to watch the file. She instructs the strange man to equip Minhee with weapons, so he obeys her orders. But before he leaves, he gives Jian an eyeglass gift and also warns her to never come out of the underground. Once the man leaves, Jian helps Zhongmin to get on his feet, so he pulls her for a hug. She tries to pull away, but holds her tightly and whispers that he was actually the one who locked her up in the school's basement. Before she could process this information, he injects her with a drug, making her dizzy. Then he takes a seat and tries to analyze the underground server. While Jian is paralyzed from the drugs, Zhongmin inspects the gift eyeglass and talks to someone on the phone. He plans to transfer both the underground weapon storage and the website's data to the person on the phone call. After reaching an agreement, the person instructs him to kill Jian, so he picks up a gun to kill her, but she's curious on how he got into the criminal world, so he reveals everything. It turns out that he had once hacked Mirthheld website and discovered that the website was dealing in sales of expensive weapons. One day while walking home with his friend, he narrates how he had hacked the site, but the friend warns him to be careful. But as soon as they get home, they find a strange man in their room who questions them about the hacking. They're both given a task to do, and after Zhongmin wins, the assassin kills off his friend, but Zhongmin shows no signs of fear, so the assassins take a liking to him. Afterwards, the men show him a picture of Jian and her uncle, so he goes undercover to work for her uncle in order to monitor all his activities. While working for the uncle, he had tried to find the underground weapons store, but almost got caught. But that same day, her uncle asks for his help to remove a virus from his laptop. So while working on the virus, Zhongmin installs a flash drive that allows him to hack into her uncle's laptop. Unknown to him, the strange man is monitoring everything from the underground. Once Zhongmin gets home, he waits for her uncle to log into the Mirthheld website in order to clone the man's activities and to get the password to hack into the website. As soon as he hacks the site, an assassin comes into his house to kill him, but he resets the hacking process and warns them that everything will be erased once they kill him. But when they insist on killing him, he proposes to help them to kill Jian's uncle. Now back in the present, he clicks open the file and shows her the video of how he killed her uncle and staged it as suicide. It turns out that her uncle had discovered Zhongmin's identity and tied him up. So Zhongmin lies and makes the uncle listen to a fake voice recording of Jian calling for help. The uncle believes the recording and decides to kill himself since it's the only way to save Jian. After playing the whole video, Zhongmin begins to gloat while Jian breaks down in tears. Suddenly, she stops crying and begins to laugh. He's confused at her sudden change of emotions, so she reveals that the assassins will kill him off after he completes the mission for them. She also reveals that there are tons of people who will come to rescue her since she's now the new leader of Mirthheld organization. She tries to convince Zhongmin to make a deal with her instead of the assassins, but this provokes him to point a gun at her. Suddenly, she makes him fall and traps him with her legs while biting his ears. She successfully bites off his ears and continues to wrestle him while he tries to free himself. Then she hits him with a chair and manages to escape. As he searches around for her, she gives an idea to set a trap for him. And fortunately, he falls right into her trap and dangles in the air. After trapping him, she beats him up. Meanwhile, another set of assassins have arrived in the area to meet the sniper. At the same time, Min-hee treats her wounds, while the strange man breaks the wall of the house to uncover more weapons. As the new assassins prepare to fight, another group of assassins arrive in a bus and later showcase a killer robot shaped like a dog. An engineer controls the robot and directs it to go over to Jian's uncle's house, while the new assassins prepare for foot combat. Before they leave, the sniper instructs them to capture Jian alive. As Min-hee assembles her guns, the strange man looks at the blueprint of the house and reveals that every corner of the house can be used as a defense. Then he inputs a code that triggers a bulletproof door. When the assassins notice that the door is closing, they run to stop it from totally closing. Meanwhile, the robot is able to enter before the door closes, so Min-hee tries to shoot it, but it evades her bullet. The strange man tells her to seek shelter, so she enters a room, and the bulletproof door of the room closes. Meanwhile, the door of the sitting room is yet to close, so the robot blocks it from closing, and this helps the assassins to get into the house. Once they get in, the door finally shuts, trapping everyone inside the house. Although Min-hee is locked in another room, the robot is still able to see past the door. So Min-hee gives a gun to the strange man and instructs him to fight and stay alive. On the other hand, Jian is still alone in the underground with a trapped Zhongmin. She doesn't know what to do, so she decides to read through the handover document. On the first page, she sees a letter from her uncle on how to escape from the underground. According to the letter, she'll be able to change her identity and live a peaceful life with enough money. However, if she chooses to stay and fight, the letter directs her to a page in the manual on how to defeat the assassins, so Jian contemplates on the option to choose. Meanwhile, the robot screws a hole into the door where Min-hee and the strange man are hiding, so Min-hee wears a face mask and prepares to counterattack. As soon as the hole is complete, the robot inserts its rod to infuse gas into Min-hee's room. But as the assassins prepare to fight, the strange man taps a button that causes the bulletproof door to open, and the robot unfortunately gets caught in between the opening process. Now that the door is opened, Min-hee jumps out and begins to fight the assassins. As she fires her at them, Jian also joins in the fight. She comes in time to rescue Min-hee, and she also throws a grenade to the assassin's side. All the assassins end up dying except one. So as Jian tries to treat Min-hee's wound, the assassin barges in and shoots Min-hee. Then he drags out Jian, but she resists vehemently and wrestles him. He overpowers her and tries to disfigure her face, but Payson, her uncle's good friend, comes out of nowhere and kills the assassin. Then he pulls her up for a hug. Afterward, he reveals that they need to escape from the area since the overall leader named Bale will be coming soon. Unknown to the both of them, Bale is in a secret place watching everything through a huge monitor. Once he realizes that the assassins have failed to kill Jian, he finally decides to send out the twin assassins to do the job. It turns out that Jian's uncle, whose name is Jinmin, used to be in an army together with all the dead assassins. One day while on a mission, they get caught in between an open fire, but Sungju's timely intervention saves them all from dying. After defeating all the enemy soldiers, one of the twins informs Jinmin that there has been no news from Bale and Sungju. Two soldiers try to contact Bale, but there's no news, so they begin to suspect that something bad has happened. One of the rookie soldiers decides to go down to search for Bale and Sungju, but he discovers tons of civilian dead bodies. He also hears the cries of civilians and goes to check it out. It turns out that Bale had killed some civilians, and the rookie soldier witnessed this. Both Sungju and Bale were involved in some hideous things, and since the rookie had discovered it, Sungju killed him off. Meanwhile, Jinmin and Passin are searching for Bale and Sungju. The gunshot helps Jinmin to easily locate Bale, but when he finds them, he discovers that the rookie soldier is dead. Bale lies that the rookie had died while defending the civilians, but Jinmin becomes suspicious after witnessing the scene. At this moment, a little boy appears with a gun and Bale immediately shoots the boy, which leaves Jinmin shocked. They're eventually charged to court, but Sungju denies any involvement in the death of the civilians. However, Jinmin is called out as a witness, and after hesitating, he testifies that Bale is innocent of the charges. Due to the lack of evidence, the court releases Bale, but Jinmin meets their supervisor and begs him to never place him in the same team with Bale. However, a mission in China comes up, so the supervisor begs Jinmin to team up with Bale in order to succeed in the mission. The supervisor also instructs him to capture a man alive before Bale kills the man. So Jinmin sets out on the mission with Bale, but before they depart, he instructs Bale to arrest unarmed men and not to kill them. While on the mission, Bale and his team catch some unarmed men, but Bale throws a sword to the men, and once they pick it up, he claims that they're armed, so he kills them off. He also finds some young girls locked in a room. One of the girls begs him to save them, but Bale throws a grenade into the room to kill the women. Meanwhile, Jinmin has captured his target, but once he hears the sound of an explosive, he goes to check it out and immediately discovers that Bale had killed the young unarmed girls. When he aims his gun to shoot Bale, some soldiers also aim their guns at him, so he decides to report the case to the organization. Before leaving, they plant bombs in all the rooms to erase evidence, and while conducting a final look at the rooms, Jinmin discovers a helpless woman in a wardrobe. She jumps out to kill him, but he evades it. The helpless woman is Min-hee. Instead of killing her, he uses his jacket to cover her up, and he also warns her to be quiet. When the team of soldiers leaves, Jinmin stays back and returns to the room to save the woman, but while escaping together, Bale suddenly confronts them, so Jinmin tells the woman to escape alone while he fights with Bale. They get into one-on-one combat, and Bale manages to overpower Jinmin. As he tries to shoot Jinmin, the woman suddenly appears and shoots him in the face. Then, Jinmin uses the opportunity to stab Bale multiple times. He also tries to shoot Bale with a gun, but there are no bullets left. Seeing the bomb countdown, the woman begs Jinmin to escape, so they escape outside and watch as the building burns. Jinmin believes that Bale had died from the bomb explosion, so he visits his supervisor and announces his desire to retire. But as soon as he leaves, the supervisor orders someone to monitor him. While on the train station, he notices the spies, so he secretly signals one of his colleagues. Once he arrives home to his family, his brother and mother happily welcome him, and they also introduce him to his niece, Jian. Unknown to him, Vale is still alive, but has tons of burns and scars on his face. Jinmin begins to live a normal life with his brother, mother, and sister-in-law, but his mother falls ill, so he begins to look after her at the hospital. She convinces him to go home and rest, but instead he goes to meet an old friend and Min-hee. Later that night, the friend informs him that Bale's body wasn't found after the explosion, so they conclude that Bale had died. Afterward, the friend proposes a business idea to sell guns online. Meanwhile, Bale visits Jinmin's mother at the hospital and suffocates her to death. Then he meets other soldiers and convinces them to join in his revenge on Jinmin. However, one of the soldiers refuses to join in the revenge plan. On the day of his mother's funeral, Jinmin returns home with Jian, while his brother stays back to make the burial arrangement. Sungju arrives at the funeral hall and convinces Jinmin's brother and sister-in-law to follow him to the rooftop. On the rooftop, Bale brutally kills them and throws off the brother's body for wolves to eat. Meanwhile, Jinmin is sitting with Jian when he receives a call from the soldier who pulled out of the revenge plan. The soldier informs him that Bale is alive, so Jinmin immediately texts his friend and begs him to protect Jian while he goes to save his brother. The friend arrives just in time to prevent the assassins from capturing Jian, but he ends up dying in the hands of Sungju. Jinmin, on the other hand, encounters an accident while on his way to save his brother. The assassins gang up to kill him, but he manages to kill them and escape. Jian also escapes from Sungju by jumping off the window. However, she gets hit by a bus. Another set of assassins visit the house where Min-hee stays in order to kill her, but she spills acid on one of the assassins and also shoots the remaining. Then she burns down the building and escapes into hiding. Meanwhile, Jinmin seeks protection in Passin's house. After Passin treats his wounds, Jinmin begs for a gun and leaves to save Jian, who was receiving treatment at the hospital. After defeating some assassins, he saves Jian, who is hiding in a mortuary cabinet. While leaving with Jian, he sees Bale in the hallway, but escapes in a crowd of mourners. Then he meets up with Passin and announces his intention to create a long-term plan to defeat Bale. So they begin to plan on how to build an underground storage to store weapons. He invites the strange man to live with him, and Passin also meets up with Min-hee. Once the underground house is completed, Jinmin moves in with Jian. Min-hee undergoes training under Passin until she becomes skilled. After many years, Jinmin decides to teach Jian how to shoot a gun. Now back in the present, the twin assassins prepare to attack together with the sniper, whose name is Sungju. Meanwhile, Passin treats Min-hee's wound, while the strange man looks for a way to help them escape from the underground. At the same time, Zhongmin wakes up and finds out that he's still hanging on the rope, so he manages to cut the rope and get on the floor. Then he studies the underground system server to find a way to escape. The strange man has found a way for them to escape, but he reveals that since Jian had left the underground storage, the server had undergone a reset and they can only escape after 24 hours. While discussing the next course of action, the strange man discovers that someone had hacked into the server, and Zhongmin is the culprit. The boy resets everything, causing the bulletproof doors to be removed. As they get distracted and wonder what to do, the dead robot revives, but begins to malfunction. They surround the robot and plan to shoot it if anything goes wrong, but the robot suddenly produces a high-pitched noise that affects their ears. Payson shoots the robot multiple times, but the high-pitched noise continues, so he orders Jian to hide in a bathroom with the strange man. As Jian pulls the strange man, who had fallen unconscious due to the high pitch, Min-hee tries to hit the robot with a gun, but a jeep suddenly bursts into the room and crushes the robot. Then the twin assassins step out of the car, and one of them immediately shoots Min-hee. Seeing the situation, Passin decides to fight the twins in one-on-one combat. Meanwhile, Sungju sees Jian dragging the strange man into a bathroom, so he tries to step down from the car, but he gets stuck. Jian uses this opportunity to lock the strange man in the bathroom, while she runs into a room to grab a knife. Sungju gets out of the car and enters the room to find her. She begins to fight with him, but he overpowers her. The strange man suddenly appears and hits Sungju. His appearance gives Jian the opportunity to escape, but as soon as she leaves the room, she sees Passin in a fight with the twins. Then she looks behind and sees Sungju shooting the strange man. Jian is stuck and doesn't know what to do. One of the twins tries to catch her, but Payson kills him off with a wallpaper. Then he yells at Jian to escape from the house. So she runs into her uncle's store, but Sungju catches sight of her. She runs away from him and begins to panic. However, she sees a gun on the floor and picks it up. When Sungju gets into the store, he sees the dead bodies of assassins and tries to steal jewelry from one of the assassins. But Jian turns on the light and points a gun at him from behind. She begins to question if he was behind the death of her parents. But before he could answer, they hear a noise and Jian becomes distracted. So Sungju uses the opportunity to escape. Meanwhile, the noise is from Zhongmin, who has managed to escape from the underground storage. After crawling out of a hole, he picks up a gun and fires it randomly in the sky. Unknown to him, both Jian and Sungju are hiding somewhere watching him. After shooting randomly, his bullets finish, so Sungju appears from behind and hits him with an axe. So Zhongmin ends up dying. However, Jian manages to escape in the middle of the chaos, but Sungju follows her closely. She hides from him, so he's unable to find her. Then he decides to install laser beams around the storage. His special glasses allow him to see the laser beams, but Jian is unaware of them. When she tries to escape, she crosses one of the beams, so it explodes and pushes her away. As soon as she gets on her feet, he fires bullets at her, so fires back at him and escapes to treat her wounds. While stitching up the wounds, she remembers that her uncle had given her the option to escape through the back door and get a new identity, so she breaks down in tears. Meanwhile, the only surviving twin comes across the back door and gets into it. He finds the escape route and begins to bang at it. So the route suddenly explodes, killing him in the process. On the other hand, the strange man wakes up and checks on his bulletproof to see that there are no wounds. As for Jian, she tries to hit Sungju with a truck, but he rolls away and in the process, he crosses a laser beam that explodes and pushes him away. So he unfortunately lands in a pool of gasoline. Jian appears and points a gun at him, but instead of shooting him, she fires the floor. So the bullet lights the gasoline, and Sungju gets caught up in the flames. However, the fire triggers the sprinklers, so water sprays out and extinguishes the flames on Sungju. He immediately tries to attack Jian, but she pulls the trigger and shoots him in the middle of his head, so he drops down and dies. Now that all the assassins have been defeated, Basin tries to wake Min-hei, while the strange man looks around for Jian. He eventually finds her, and they sit together to study the underground server. Suddenly, the strange man notices that more assassins are heading to their area. According to data on the server, Bale had put their names on a wanted list, so anyone who catches them would be rewarded handsomely. The strange man asks for opinion on what to do, so Jian pulls him to a weapon store and pulls out an axe. Tons of assassins trope into the house, so Min-hei and Pesin prepare to fight them. But the strange man suddenly appears in front of the assassins with a sign that says, "Don't shoot." Then Jian begins to talk to the assassins through a microphone. She introduces herself as the new leader of Mirtha Help and also instructs the strange man to show them Sungju's head. Once they realize that Sungju is dead, their morale weakens. Seeing this, Jian offers them a deal. She offers to do business with them on discount and also promises to deposit some amounts into their accounts. After hearing this, the assassins drop their guns and decide to take her offer since it is more beneficial to them. They happily withdraw from the house, and Payson watches as they leave. Then he goes into the room and sees that Min-hei has become unconscious. Meanwhile, Jian leaves the underground storage and goes to search for Payson, but he's nowhere to be found. So she goes outside the house and breaks down in painful tears. Suddenly, she sees a long bus heading towards her direction, so she runs towards it and points her gun at the car in anger. But the driver steps down and shows her his yellow card, which means that he belongs to the team that cleans up crime scenes. The driver is the same man that offered her a lighter during her uncle's burial. In the morning, the driver and team cleans up the area while Jian sits outside alone. The driver walks over to Jian and advises her to continue hiding underground, but one of the cleaners suddenly informs him that a car is driving towards the house. They all go to check it out, and the driver also pulls out a gun as precaution. The taxi stops in front of them, and to their surprise, her uncle steps out of the car with the help of a man.